Well, at the outset, it was well known that WandaVision would lead into the Doctor Strange film, and so that left it open as to who's the real villain here. And the events of the series so far seems to indicate that, oh, it's Wanda. Well, if you're familiar with the Scarlet Witch Vision stories from the comics, kind of, sort of, she is, through no fault of her own. You can certainly understand what she wants here, and this is it, this fantasy life with the Vision, and they have children. But wait, how can they have children? Yeah, there's the rub. So when it going into Doctor Strange, this set up a possibility of who the villain would be in the Doctor Strange film, and we would probably get a revelation as to who that is within this series. And a lot of money was on Nightmare, which is an entity that Doctor Strange battles. And there was, even to the point that there were stories that the Nightmare would be gender swapped and all this type of thing, as to who would be cast to play the role. And who knows, Nightmare may still show up in that film. But odds are now there is a second choice, and I theorized this in my last week's episode as I was reviewing it, that perhaps it could be Mephisto, or is it Mephisto? I don't know. A derivative of Mephistopheles, basically the Satan of the Marvel Universe character. And even though in some stories they claim that the real Satan shows up, but for the purposes of avoiding any kind of conflicts with religious beliefs and whatnot, it's better to just make up your own demon. And he's an evil entity, perhaps the manifestation of evil, and he deals in buying people's souls and tricking them and then tormenting them forever in his infernal realm. Pretty much a rip-off of Satan, but still it's its own character. But he fits in just perfect for this scenario, and it is very likely that he is the villain. And oh well, look here, Bounding into Comics says someone noticed that this toy that's part of the merchandise for the WandaVision series seems to confirm that he certainly is involved here. So here is the image for the packaging of this toy, and well, who does that look like? Well, if you know, it's him. And oh well, of course, he just know how to read, and so it stands to reason that he's in there. Now, what could it be? Why is it him and not someone else? Well, they pulled from this West Coast Avengers story, which led into, I think a spinoff was the Wanda and Vision story. And then there's the kids. They have the same names as Thomas and William. So it's really close to it. And they're getting their inspiration for this adaptation of that story for WandaVision from what happened in the comics. And so, and then this is Agatha Harkness. A lot of people have theorized that the woman who keeps showing up, the dark-haired lady who makes all the idiot jokes for the sitcom scenario, might actually be Agatha Harkness, whether she's actually a much older woman and just looks young in this fantasy world or what have you, who knows. But that might be her trying to get through, because of the consequences of what Wanda has done, has left herself open to being manipulated by an entity like Mephisto. Now, in this story, Mephisto had manipulated another guy into believing that his soul was shattered and spread out across the cosmos, and that the two kids were actually the material of his soul, and he wanted them back. And here is this horrific scene that's torturing poor Wanda and all that. But Agatha explains all of this, and it's like the children only exist so long as Wanda thinks about them. So they're manifestations of her power and dreamed into reality when she can't really make them real and autonomous to themselves. And it's the sad thing. She's broken by the tragedy she suffered, and that's the case. But it turns out in the plot of this story that, and this actually feeds into the Fantastic Four, that Mephisto was fighting them, and their son, Franklin Richards, who's a mutant and has godlike power, destroyed him. And but you can never fully destroy Mephisto. He will come back because there's evil in the universe. And he was able to reassemble himself, but he was weak, and pieces of him are missing. And so there were pieces of his spirit, if you will, were out there. And he manipulated this other guy to seek them out. And he finds them, and he takes them. They're Wanda's children, and there's parts of him. And so she's, devastated and whatnot. And but as a result of him taking them into him, they were still linked to her spell that she weaved here. And when Agatha, in order to spare her the despair of this event and the tragedy of it all, the pain of it, she wipes her memory of the children. And so since she can't remember them, they cease to exist. And so that's it for Mephisto. So that's how he's defeated in that story. It may not go that way, as it might want to lead into the Doctor Strange story, and for him to be a challenge for Doctor Strange. And then he fits right in with the Doctor Strange conflict and all of that, and it might lead into that, so he would still be, in existence and whatnot, not scattered by Wanda. But we'll have to see. But it's certainly the elements from this original comic book story might possibly be weaved in to where they're going with, and certainly I think it's all but a done deal that Mephisto will be the evil manipulator behind the scenes of WandaVision. So there we go. There's a little background on it. They give you a good synopsis of it here in this Pounding into Comics article, in which, of course, I will link as my source down below in the description, and you can check that out. But I think, especially with the toy and everything, sometimes they do sell toys with other Marvel characters involved in it, and they're not really in the movie or stuff like that, but it's rare, and I think this pretty much kind of leaks it out. I know there have been leaks about the plot of the show. I didn't bother to look for them and all of that, but this kind of thing where there's a toy coming out to be sold, and it kind of, whoops, well. And it was pretty much down to the two, either Mephisto or Nightmare. And so there you go. The idea that it's all just Wanda and she's an evil person now. They could have gone with that to some degree, and there's elements of that in the comic book as well. There's a follow-up to this storyline about the children and when it pushes her over the edge and just destroys the Avengers practically, and stuff like that. So yeah, they could have. But, Wanda is a good person. She's just been so badly broken and hurt, and it shows the difficulties of that. And for the purposes of a movie, which can only do so much within the confines of movies and even the TV series, I think she'll have her redemption at the end of this, and ultimately will show that, yeah, she was manipulated by a scoundrel and nasty monster, a demon, a real demon, like Mephisto.
Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness. So many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.